Hello, hockey fans, and welcome back to another episode of Anatomy of a Season in part 2 of our look at the 1983-84 Edmonton Oilers. If you haven't checked out part 1, do so now before we go any further. The links are in the description as well as the top right corner of your screen. Now, I looked at the Oilers' regular season, chock full of exciting play, records set, and pure dominance. But to give a quick recap, after being embarrassed and humiliated in the 1983 Cup final by the dominant New York Islanders, who won their 4th straight Stanley Cup, the Oilers went into the 1983-84 season with a new attitude. They knew they had more growing up to do, and did just that. Gretzky became team captain at age 22, which veteran defenseman Lee Fogelin graciously handed over to him. They dominated the season with a record of 57 wins, 18 losses, and 5 ties for 119 points. They became the first team in NHL history to have 4 different players reach 100 points twice, as they did so the year before. As this year was, of course, Wayne Gretzky's 205 points. Yes, 205 points that led the way, giving him his 4th straight scoring title, winning the Hart Trophy as League MVP for the 5th straight time, and the Pearson as Player's Choice MVP for the 3rd straight time. Paul Coffey has one of the greatest seasons a defenseman has ever seen, becoming the 3rd defenseman in NHL history to reach 100 points in a season, with a sensational 126, second best in the entire league, as Bobby Orr had reached 100 points 6 times, and Denny Pavin, still active with his team captain with the Islanders, did it once. And Coffey's 126 was the 3rd best scoring season ever by a defenseman at that point. Also, Yari Curry's career highs across the board led him to 113 points in just 64 games, as he missed 16 due to injuries. Mark Messier reached 101 points as his game continued to grow, while the amazing Glenn Anderson nearly made it 5 players reaching 100 points as he finished with 99 and reached the 50-goal mark for the very first time, scoring 54 goals. Also in this forward core, gritty Kenny the Rat Linsman proved to continue to be a welcome presence, with role players such as Dave Hunter, Pat Hughes, Yaroslav Huzar, Dave Lumley were doing all their part, while Willie Lindstrom came up big with some huge performances every so often, while tough guy Dave Semenko was watching the back of number 99. But the steal of a deal they got was from Pittsburgh, as little-used winger Kevin McClellan joined the club and added more toughness and grind to the club. On defense joining Coffey, you had the reliable yet very underrated Charlie Huddy, who had an excellent year and got some votes for the Norris Trophy, and while not racking up the same kind of stats as Coffey, was among the top 10 and plus-minus leaders and still key in the team's all-out attack style. Kevin Lowe also had an outstanding year, while Randy Gregg does not get the appreciation he deserves. Former captain Lee Fogelin had one of the best years of his career, complementing the core with a more traditional style, but the Oilers have a question to answer. They put Don Jackson in, who has been a significant part of their lineup, or veteran Rick Chartra, who joined the team late season in the absence of Jackson. He started off rough, but came through in the end for the club at the end of the season, and he has Stanley Cup experience during his days in Montreal, collecting some rings while at it. But they decided to go with Jackson. But the biggest question, however, is the goaltending. Who do they go with? Moog and Fuhr's stats all season were very similar. Fuhr had 30 wins and played in more games, but Moog had 27 wins in his own right. Moog also had the better goals against average of 3.78 to Fuhr's 3.91, but again, not too far apart. While their save percentage are actually pretty much identical, with Moog having an 882 and Fuhr with 883, and each had a shutout, but when it comes to playoff savvy, Fuhr has not done so well in the playoffs, as a matter of fact. He has a 2-3 record with a lackluster 4.88 goals against average and a really bad 8.56 save percentage. This mainly came from the disastrous upset at the hands of the Los Angeles Kings in 1982 in the first round, as he only saw 11 minutes of action in last year's playoffs. However, since that disaster 2 years prior, he has matured a great deal as a goaltender and is coming off an excellent year. However, Andy Moog now has vast playoff experience, both from the miracle run in 1981, where the Oilers swept the Habs in 3 and took the eventual champion Islanders to 6 games, and was their guy all the way to the Stanley Cup final run last year and played very well. In the playoffs, he has an excellent 16-9 record, a really good 3.26 goals against average, and a solid 891 save percentage. It seems the answer is clear, as Moog also had a really good year in the regular season too. However, Sather seemed to believe in Fuhr's growth, and that was key in the Oilers' success more than anything, and he put his trust in the 21-year-old. So now, with that in mind, it is now playoff time. And to open these playoffs, the 1984 Smythe Division semifinal, a best-of-5 series. As remembers, the divisional format was in this era, and the first round was still best-of-5. The Oilers will take on the Winnipeg Jets. Now, if this were the 1-8 conference seeding that, say, began in 1994 playoffs, with just 2 divisions in the conference, the Oilers would actually face the Blackhawks. But the Jets are indeed their first, obstacle, I guess if you want to call them that. They finished with 73 points, 46 less than the Oilers, but obviously what happened against the Kings 2 years prior is still fresh in their minds, especially that at Grand Fuhr. However, not only did the Oilers sweep the Jets last year in the opening round, but they also beat them in all 8 regular season meetings this year. This isn't to say the Jets didn't have talent. Even 2 years prior, they were considered to be one of the teams of the future, but they haven't lived up to expectations. However, they still do have one of the best players in the game in this era, Dale Hawerchuk, who in his 3rd season reached 100 points for the 2nd time. He was an exciting playmaker with speed and the anticipation of a play development, and was also a solid checker. With him, there were other talents such as power forward Paul McLean, nasty yet effective Laurie Boschman, as well as skilled Lucien DeBlois and the popular Thomas Steen, and two-way forward Doug Schmale, and also Brian Mullins, Scott Erniel, the hardworking Morris Lukowicz to cap them off. On defense, they had the talented all-star Dave Babich, as well as other talents such as Mo Mantha, Tim Waters, Robert Picard, and the big late-season acquisition, former Norris Trophy winners Leafs top defenseman in 1981 with Pittsburgh, Randy Carlyle. Goaltending has been a major issue for the team as they went through 5 this year. The 2 most prominent, however, were being Doug Soutard and Brian Hayward. They are coached by Barry Long, a former Oiler from their WHA days. So here we go. Game 1. Northlands Coliseum in Edmonton. The crowd is ready for their team to make another big run for it. Mike Weiser actually gets the start for the Jets. Fuhr is in net for the Oilers. And right off the opening shift, Suhonen begins the path for Gretzky to set up Curry! Just 40 seconds in, Lumley sets up Greg to extend the lead to 2-0, and then Coffey made it 3-0. Less than 2 minutes later, Dave Hunter made it 4-0. But 1:14 later, the Jets got on the board, but 47 seconds after that, Coffey gets his second goal of the game. It's 5-1 Oilers after 1. Yeah, Weiser's night is done, while Fuhr is facing a barrage of shots. The other goal of the second period came from Messier to Gretzky to Kenny the Rat. 6-1 Oilers after 2. The Jets still fly in on Fuhr, but can't solve him. Defensemen Coffey and Huddy take command of the puck in the third period as they set up Curry for a goal to open the third. It's 7-1. And the top dogs are unleashed again. Coffey in control. And now that infamous combo, Gretzky to Curry. Hat trick! Oh, Yari Curry, the finish flash. His first playoff hattie, a natural hat trick at that. 8-1. Babich gets one back for the Jets, but it's too little. Way too late. Linsman scores his second of the game, and it's an easy breezy 9-2 win for the Edmonton Oilers. What a monster night for many players. First off, Curry, his first playoff hat trick, plus an assist for 4 points. Coffey continues his own momentum with 2 goals and 2 helpers for 4 points. Gretzky not just 3 assists. Linsman has 2 goals, while Greg played a monster of a game with a goal and assist. Was a +5, as was Charlie Huddy in that regard. Lumley, McClellan, and new call-up Suhonen each had 2 assists, while Fuhr also got a workout, stopping 37 of 39 shots. Game 2. Mark Barron is in net for the Jets, and things get rough early as Glenn Anderson and Robert Picard drop the gloves and throw down, and shortly after, Paul Coffey gets called for tripping, and the Jets go on a power play, and Hawerchuk strikes on the extra man advantage, and they are playing like a much more determined bunch in a tougher game, not letting the Oilers walk all over them like in the prior game. However, Coffey sets up number 99 to tie it up, but literally 34 seconds later, the Jets take a 2-1 lead after 1 period, as Barron has been great in net for the Jets. Then in the second period, Lidstrom and Linsman set up Semenko for the tying goal, but 1:39 later, the Jets retake the lead on a shorthanded goal from Mo Mantha. The Oilers are down 3-2 after 2. What is going on here? Early in the second period, the Oilers find themselves down 4-2, and Northlands Coliseum has been silenced. However, just past the midway point of the frame, Chuck Huddy to Mess to Glenn Anderson. The arena wakes up. The Oilers close the gap to a goal. 1:46 later, Gretzky and Curry team up as they do, only this time it's to set up Suhonen for a goal to tie the game 4-4 as Barron's exhaustion catches up to him and time winds down. We are going to overtime, and 21 seconds in, the Oilers are rushing in, led by Anderson behind the Winnipeg net as Barron is unable to clear the puck. Messier grabs it, he takes it out, he sees an open Randy Gregg who snipes it home. A huge overtime win, and the comeback is complete for the Oilers. It just goes to show you once again, you can't get too comfortable when you take a lead against this team, because they will catch up, as the Jets played their heart out and had them against the wall at one point. But either way, a huge team effort all around from the boys on the bus, and it pays dividends with a 2-0 series lead on the verge of a sweep as the series is about to shift to Winnipeg. Game 3, we are off to the peg indeed, and despite the obstacle, the Jets faithful is in full force and they believe in their team. And while the Jets are again focused, Fuhrer is a wall in net, turning back shot after shot. Howard can't get past him, despite all the shots he can muster, and indeed the Oilers strike first this time, and Curry gets his 4th goal of these playoffs, and in the series he is on fire. It stays 1-0 after 1. In the second half, McBain ties it for the Jets, and then in the second period, Dave Semenko, who's having a really good series, makes it 2-1 for the Oilers after 2. Fuhrer is making excellent saves left and right, proving so far anyway that Sather has made the right decision. And defenseman Jackson and Gregg help Messier get a goal, his first of these playoffs. It's 3-1. And then at the midway point of the period, McClellan to Coffey to Chucky Huddy, 4-1 Oilers. Fear holds them in there, and the sweep is complete. They indeed hang on for the 4-1 win. Literally everyone was pulling their weight here, as the Oilers weren't just relying on the big guns to help them win. They were playing 4-line hockey, while all defensive pairings were doing their task perfectly. Outside of Game 2, they were never really in any immediate danger, but it did motivate them further to grind harder for this win, and they did just that. And now the Oilers are off to the Smythe Division Final. Jari Kurri was playing great two-way hockey with his forechecking skills, and to no surprise, led the series in points with 6, and goals with 4. He was dead focused out there, and tied for first was Paul Coffey with 2 goals and 4 helpers, but again, he's playing the most discipline he ever has in his career as well. Gretzky was actually tied for 3rd in scoring with a goal and 4 assists, and was hustling as hard as ever on every given shift, and each one mattered more than the last, while some critics pointed out his, quote, lack of dominance in this series. Whatever. Huddy also had a goal and 4 helpers and was also superb in this series, and his playoff savvy really paid dividends, and his abilities to guide anyone from the 1st and 4th line on a rush was uncanny. Messier was also playing some gritty hockey at all ends of the ice, as Anderson showed some aggression, while Suhonen was the unexpected star of the series, and Slinsman also showed up to play, while McClellan and Semenko also took it to another level. Lumley, Lindstrom, Hughes, and Hunter were also playing their little hearts out. It's fitting that the top 2 Oiler defensemen all year, the top 2 who had the best series, as indeed Coffey's 6 points did lead all defensemen. And Huddy, however, was a +9, leading his entire team, as he was steering the ship out there on every shift, it seemed, really upping his game. Randy Gregg was also out there making every shift count, as was Kevin Lowe. While veteran Lee Fogelin may no longer be captain, he still showed great leadership as always, while Don Jackson showed the Jets what he was all about as well. The Oilers' defense may not be the type of defense experts and pundits want them to play, but tough booty for them. And yes, it looks like Sather's decision to go with Grant Fuhrer has paid off so far, as Fuhrer wins his first playoff series as a starter. He won and played in all 3 games in the sweep, and was outstanding, a save percentage of .939, a goals against average of just 2.33. He was playoff ready at long last, but can he stay the course going forward? And for the Smythe Division Final, here we go. The Battle of Alberta, Playoff Version, Chapter 2. For the 2nd straight year in the Smythe Final, the Calgary Flames are awaiting the Oilers. Last year, the Oilers doused the Flames in 5 games in a best-of-7 series, outscoring them 35-12. The Flames this year, however, have shown slight improvement and had a winning record, finishing with 82 points, and got through it being hampered by many injuries and were guided by their very brilliant head coach, Badger Bob Johnson. They got past the Vancouver Canucks in 4 games in the best-of-5 opening round series, and they were without superstar center Kent Nilsson. But they were led by the great Lenny McDonald, who also had injury issues this season, but is looking sharp going into this series. They had the gritty Eddie Beers, he had a breakout year, while Swedish import Håkon Loob was dazzling fans in Calgary, and they had another young star in Dan Quinn. Also, Steve Tambellini was effective on the score sheet as well. He had veteran Doug Risebrough playing a role-player role, who had 4 Stanley Cups in Montreal. He led a capable group of this core, such as Mike Eves, Steve Bozek, Colin Patterson, and Jim Poplinski. On defense, however, superstar Paul Reinhart had missed 53 games, but was healthy and playing very well in these playoffs so far. And they had a new rookie sensation by the name of Al McInnes. Joining them was Kari Alaranta, Paul Baxter, Steve Conroy, and the capable and dependable Jamie McCown. In net, they had the highly talented Reggie Lemelin backstopping them and another excellent netminer, Don Edwards, backing him up. But the Flames didn't have a chance in hell at seeing, pardon the pun. Much like the Jets, the Oilers hadn't lost to the Flames all year, going 7-0-1 in 8 meetings. Should be another cruise to move further on. Game 1, Northlands Coliseum, the tension between the heated rivals. You can be cut with a literal knife, and the Flames shocked the Oilers first when E scores a shorthanded goal as Lemelin is an absolute monster in net. But with 32 seconds left in the period, Messier reads the play, Gretzky continues it, and Curry finishes it. It's 1-1 after 1. And then the Rat just pounces on Lemelin as he scores a goal near the midway point of the second period, and the Oilers take a 2-1 lead. Just over 2 minutes later, the fantastic Finns, Curry and Suominen find Gretzky, and the Oilers lead 3-1, but Landy gets one for the Flames, and the Oilers lead is cut to 3-2 after 2. In the third period, however, the Oilers are putting the heat on Lemelin. Gretzky sets up Kevin Lowe for a rare goal, and the Oilers' 2-goal lead is restored. And with 46 seconds left to play, Gretzky notches an empty netter to complete a monster night for him. Hey, the critics wanted Gretzky to break out and be dominant? Haha, careful what you wish for. 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points. Curry also staying hot. Fuhrer playing well in net once again. The Oilers rolling on as they fired in constantly on Lemelin, seemingly exhausting the Flames at the end of the game. Game 2, the Northlands crowd is still rocking, but an early penalty gives the Flames a power play, and just 1:50 to the game, Dan Quinn scores as the Flames strike first for the second time. Both Don Edwards and Grant Fuhrer are amazing in net, and the Flames are having trouble building on their lead, however. The Oilers also can't seem to strike. It's not till unsung hero Kevin McClelland sets up the H-squared duo of Hughes and Hunter, and they ties the game late in the first. It's 1-1 after 1. In the second period, the Oilers once again jump into the driver's seat on a power play. Gretzky reads the situation. He turns the page over to Messier, and Coffey slaps it home. The Oilers take the lead. Just over a minute later, Anderson to Lowe. He scores. The Oilers now lead 3-1. And then it's the Triple H's, because it's all about the game and how you play it. Huddy, Hughes, Hunter, 4-1. It's in the bag. Beers, however, does get a goal for Calgary to cut the gap to 4-2 after 2. However, early in the third, Richard Crom scores for the Flames, and suddenly it's 4-3. The Flames get another. It's 4-4. What just happened? How did they let this one slip? It went 1:33 to go on the power play. McInnes and Baxter set up Bozak. The Flames lead 5-4? There's no way this is happening. And then 48 seconds later, just 45 seconds left, Mess to Kopp to Gretzky. Northlands erupts in joy. We are headed to overtime, and just 3:42 in, the Flames complete the shocking upset. Kerry Wilson scores, and the Oilers lose at home in a Smythe Division series for the first time since 1982. And now the Oilers and Flames series is tied at 1 apiece. Fuhrer faces a barrage, and the Flames were able to get to him this time and beat the Oilers for the first time all year when it mattered most. Messier, Hunter, Hughes, Coffey, and Gretzky all play well, but the Oilers' defense was taken apart by Calgary on this night, and now we indeed shift the series to Calgary. Game 3 at the Settle Dome, and Calgary fans are riding high after the last game. It's important, however, that the Oilers don't lose focus and stay steady, as they know there are a lot of people waiting for them to fail. Lemelin is back in net for Calgary, while Sather keeps the faith in Fuhrer. It would be a game that would see 70 penalty minutes, and in the first period, nobody was able to gain the upper hand. The Flames have now concocted a tight checking game, even though the Oilers do manage to fire it on Lemelin, not able to all-out attack him, while Fuhrer is making epic saves for the Oilers. It remains scoreless after 1. However, in the second period for the third straight game, the Flames draw first blood, this time on a Paul Reinhart goal, but 36 seconds later, another Paul, being Coffey, scores a beauty to tie the game at 1. Near the midway point of the period, Coffey again scores another nifty goal, and it's 2-1 Oilers, and Fuhrer is continuing to be sensational to keep the 2-1 lead after 40 minutes. Early in the third period, Gretzky and Curry team out to set up Jaroslav Huzar, who returns to the lineup in his first bit of playoff action this season. He gets a goal to make it 3-1. But 2.5 minutes later, star defenders Reinhart and McInnes set up Lanny to close the gap to 3-2. But Fuhrer shines in victory, and the Oilers are back in the driver's seat, taking a 2-1 series lead with a tight, hard-fought 3-2 win thanks to the efforts of the one and only Paul Coffey and the amazing goaltending from Fuhr. The Flames were fighters, and now the Oilers truly knew that. And they're going to have to fight hard to wrap this thing up. Game 4, however, the Flames faithful still believes they can make this upset happen. However, for the first time in this series, the Oilers actually strike first, and they do show shorthanded. It's that Triple H trio: Hughes, Honey, and Hunter. Hunter scoring the goal, that is, as they work together to break it down, and the Oilers lead 1-0. They carry that lead into the second period as Fuhr again is keeping the Flames at bay. And on the power play, Anderson and Messier set up Willie Lindstrom for his first goal of these playoffs, 2-0 Edmonton. However, the Flames will not give up, as we have seen just 1:38 apart goals from Beers and Reinhart tie the game. However, 44 seconds after that equalizer, Curry scores his 6th of these playoffs. It's 3-2 Oilers after 2. Just 9 seconds into the third, the line of Anderson, Lindstrom, and Messier strike again, and Mess scoring the goal for 2 Oilers. But shortly after, the Flames close the gap, but Dave Hunter ices it with an empty netter later in the period. The Oilers are in full control of this series, taking both games in Calgary, this one 5-3. A great collaborative 4-line effort from the Oilers as Glenn Anderson, who has taken some unnecessary flack by the media for his lack of offensive production in these playoffs, not just 2 helpers. Messier is a tiger out there, ferocious as ever, while Lindstrom doing what he did all season, and that's pop up with a big game when you're not expecting it. And how about Dave Hunter? He's playing the best hockey of his career in these playoffs, just hard checking, and not to mention just 2 goals here. They didn't hurt either. It wasn't as easy as last season, but the Oilers are once again just 1 game away from taking Calgary out in 5 games. Game 5, Northlands Coliseum, and the fans are ready to see the Oilers inch a step closer to glory. But the Oilers will be without Charlie Huddy, as he suffered a shoulder injury and can miss quite a bit of time. In his absence, they dress Rick Chartoff for the game, but he actually gets called for a high sticking penalty early on the power play. Early in the game, McCowan scores for Calgary. However, on the power play of their own, the Oilers strike as it's Mark Declan to Willie. He ties the game up, but the Flames take the lead again just 1:41 later, and they take a 2-goal lead again, 2:11 after that, and lead 3-1 after 1. Just 46 seconds into the second period, Lanny makes it 4-1 for Calgary on a power play. Anderson scores to cut the gap in half, but it's soon 5-2 Flames, while Messier again closes it to 2 goals. But with 36 seconds remaining in the period, and the Flames lead 5-3 after 40 minutes, and Grant Fuhr's night is finished. Oh, what in the Sam Malone is going on here? The Oilers are putting as much pressure as they can on Lemelin in the third period, and Moe comes in and is playing pretty well in net. However, Curry was being tightly checked and not getting any chances at all in this game. However, halfway through the third period, Messier set up Lindstrom on a beauty and closed the gap to a goal, but the Oilers could not build on the momentum and drop Game 5, and have now lost 2 games on home ice in this series after losing just 5 games in the regular season there all year. The Flames take it 5-4, despite a huge 3-point night from Anderson and 4-point night from Messier, as well as 2 goals from Lindstrom. It wasn't enough. Now suddenly things don't seem so certain. However, the Oilers have not lost in Calgary in this series. Game 6 back at the Saddledome, and say they're still going with Fuhr in net. The Flames are on the power play early and strike first again as Lanny makes it 1-0. Shorthanded, however, Gretzky gets it to Kenny. It's a goal. We're all tied up. The Flames take the lead again, but the Oilers tie it again as Coffey steers the power play. Messier takes it, and it's Glenn Anderson who completes it with a goal. We are again tied 2-2, and that's how it remains after 1 period. Just over a minute into the second, Dan Quinn gives Calgary their lead back, but then Gretzky and Curry team up to set up Dave Samenko. We are tied at 3, but again, Calgary takes the lead thanks to a shorthanded effort by Paul Reinhart. The Oilers trail 4-3 after 2. The power play barely, however, gets underway for the Oilers when Mark Messier makes a great individual effort, and it's tied 4-4 early in the third. Fuhr and Lemelin are stalwarts in net, and nobody else scores in regulation. We're on to the second overtime of this series, and just 1:04 in, Lanny McDonald forces a Game 7. How did this happen? How did the Oilers let it get to this point? The critics point at the lack of defensive prowess yet again, and the fact that Coffey, quote-unquote, hasn't played up to expectations in this series, and that Jari Kurri has been silenced, though again, credit has to go to Calgary here, especially Lanny McDonald and Al MacInnis. But now the sure thing has become a huge uncertainty, and panic may have set in among fans at the time, and the experts and pundits, but the ones rooting for them to fail are smiling from ear to ear, though I think the biggest smiles were from the fans in Calgary, I'm willing to bet. So here we go. Game 7. How did we get here? It's almost baffling, but yet also logical if you really look at it deeper. Northland's Coliseum is buzzing, yet there's some concern in the air. That this dream season can become their worst nightmare, even worse than the year prior, and maybe even worse than what happened in '82. It seems Sather has lost faith in Grand Fuhrer, and Andy Moog steps in to start the game. The electric atmosphere is felt from the first puck drop, and just over 9 minutes in, Hughes and Hunter set up Lee Fogelin. Only the second playoff goal of his career, and a good time to score it. And 20 seconds later, it's Curry, Semenko to Gretzky, and it's now a 2-0 lead for the Oilers. Their defensive and checking core has also stepped it up, it seems, but the Flames tied up before the end of the period. On a power play, the Top Guns arm themselves. Wayne assesses the situation, sees that Coffey is the guy to get it to, who in turn gets to Curry, and the Oilers lead 3-2, but the Flames tie it again. And after just 3 goals on 8 shots, Moog's night is done. Fuhrer's back in, and then McInnes gives them a lead, continuing to pour it on 4-3. Calgary leads, and Northland's is again silenced, but a few minutes later, Gretzky, Hines, Anderson, the game is tied. Just under a minute later, Kevin Lowe takes command, and Hughes gets it to Lindsman, who notches it in, and the Oilers have the lead back 5-4. Lowe is playing a beauty as he again anchors on the power play, as Lindsman this time sets up Curry, who enters his critics with his second goal and third point of the game. It's 6-4 after 2 periods for the Oilers. Can they hang on? And 33 seconds into the period, it's Hunter to Hughes. 7-4 Oilers. And Fuhrer holds them in there, and the Oilers are checking much tighter in this game. The clock counts down. 3, 2, 1, 0. The Edmonton Oilers win the Battle of Alberta, but it did not come easy. The big guns stepped up in this game. They managed to contain McDonald as well. Gretzky was amazing, 1 goal and 2 helpers, and played with a desire that showed he wanted this bad. Pat Hughes played a huge game himself with a goal and 2 assists, while Curry broke away from the Flames' defensive core and notched 2 goals and a helper for 3 points. Kevin Lowe was on point. Kenny Lindsman was as well. Still, this was a huge wake-up call to the Oilers once again. Don't underestimate your opposition, regardless of their record. It's a playoff lesson that so many have learned the hard way. Gretzky led all scorers in the series with 13 points, nearly 2 points a game, and saved his best performance for the most dire moment of the series in Game 7, proving his clutch abilities well, despite what some would have you believe he didn't play bad in that regard at all. It's just the Flames found a system to restrict him in a couple games, but overall he still led the way. Mark Messier, however, was the hardest working of the bunch. He was out there always doing something. Yes, he was second on the Oilers with 11 points, but that only tells part of the story of what he can do. His desire to win was on display even when the Oilers didn't win, and he had an amazing series. Jari Kurri was held down, especially in Games 4 and 5, but again, his 3-point night in Game 7 proved to be crucial, of course, to the Oilers' victory. He's tied in third in the string with 8 points, with Glenn Anderson, who answered his critics about his, quote, lack of production. Pat Hughes and Dave Hunter, what a series they had. They were fighting for the puck, they were hitting, they were gritty, they were doing everything out there, and they deserve a lot more credit for their part in winning this series. Same goes for Willie Lindstrom and Kenny Lindsman, who are out there showing a great deal of heart. Semenko played some of his best hockey, and McClellan still made his presence felt physically. And now let's talk about the defenseman. Coffey again led in scoring, surprise, surprise, with 7 points. But of course his, quote, lack of dominance is pointed out by the naysayers. I will say, however, as good of a series as Coffey had, credit has to go big time to Kevin Lowe, who was the best defenseman in this series overall, I would say, as he really took hold of several crucial and key situations, as he, along with Charlie Huddy, who only played in the first 4 games of the series, were tied in the team lead with a +4. You could see Huddy was missed, but Lowe, who, like many others, had an incredible Game 7, stepped up even above and beyond what he could do and made it count. Randy Gregg and Don Jackson had a couple rough outings, but played well for the most part, while Chartrand was benched once again after 1 game. Larry Melnick came in due to Huddy's absence, and he did alright in his role. Grand Fuhrer, despite having some excellent outings, did have his struggles, but still played every game in the series, going 4-3, posting a mediocre 3.91 goals against average, but a respectable 891 save percentage. Andy Moog saw his first bit of playoff action this postseason, and even started Game 7, but never had a complete decision. While his goals against average of 3.21 is better, his save percentage was not very good, to say the least. So now off to the Campbell Conference Final we go. Awaiting the Oilers were the Norris Division champions, the Minnesota North Stars. Indeed, they finished first in the Norris Division with 88 points. They had a tremendous core of young forwards in their own right. Superb setup man Neil Broughton, power forward Dino Ciccarelli, and top prospect Brian Bellows. They also had tremendous talents up front such as the hard-working scoring machine Tom McCarthy, the highly talented Steve Payne, veteran Dennis Maruk. They had leadership and determination of Keith Acton, gentleman Mark Napier, and two-way forward journeyman Brent Ashton. On defense, however, they were without their captain and all-star Craig Hartsburg, who had missed most of the season due to injuries. However, Brad Maxwell used his grit and scoring prowess to fill the void quite nicely. He also had the hard-aggressive Gordy Roberts, reliable Kurt Giles, Lars Lindgren, and Dave Richter. In net, you had a very formidable duo, veteran Gilles Meloche and youngster the tiny wonder Don Beaupre. They were coached by Bill Mahoney, who had vast experience in the Canadian University ranks and achieved great success, and recently had been an assistant in Washington and a coach in the AHL, and this is being his rookie head coaching season. The Stars, however, had never won the Stanley Cup and had only ever been there once, but that was only just a mere 3 years prior as one of the Islanders in McBill's. As they have overcome several injury issues to get to this point, it took 5 games in a best-of-5 opening round series to beat the upstart Blackhawks, and they went the full 7 with an underdog St. Louis Blues club who took them to the limits. Our heroes, however, also just came off an exhausting series, and they are determined to remain focused and zeroed in on their goal. Game 1, Northlands Coliseum is ready for more from this amazing club. Sather is still putting his trust in Grand Fear, and it doesn't take long until hockey's greatest tag team, Curry and Gretzky, set up Dave Semenko for a goal just over a minute and a half into the game. More big guns go to work as Messi serves it up to Coffey, and it ends with Gretzky scoring a goal to make it 2-0 after 1. Fear is amazing in net, turning away the star forwards. However, Beaupre is also working hard on the other end, and the second period is winding down with nobody scoring, it seems. But then late in the frame, it's Paul to Kevin Mack to Hughes. He scores, and it's 3-0 39 seconds later. With Greg in command, it's Gretzky to Curry, 4-0 Oilers. The Stars, however, break Fear shutout on a Steve Payne power play goal with 24 seconds in the frame, and it's 4-1, however, for the Oilers after 2. With 13 seconds in the third period, Kevin Lowe gets it out of the zone to Hughes and sets up McClellan. 5-1 Oilers. Beaupre's night is done in Meloche. It doesn't go much better for him. And Coffey sets up Hunter, and just over a minute later, it's Gretzky to Curry again. His second of the game, his 10th of these playoffs, a monster 7-1 win for the Oilers to open this series. Another incredible night for number 99. 4 points, a goal, 3 assists. Curry continues to roll with 2 goals and an assist, with Coffey doing his thing with 3 helpers. Big games from Lowe, McClellan, Hughes, and Fuhr. This is what they need to do. Take it a game at a time. Game 2, the Stars are more focused and cohesive, and the Oilers are having to work a little harder. It seems to be the theme of these playoffs. Dominate Game 1 and have to work harder in Game 2. But the Stars still can't solve Fuhr, and Ken Lindsman scores nearly 14 minutes into the game. And then on a power play, 2:19 later, Greg to Anderson to Kenny Lindsman, his second of the game. It's 2-0 Oilers after 1. But 11 seconds into the second period on a power play of their own, a Neil Broughton goal puts the Stars on the board, while Willie Plett scores to tie the game 2:26 later. However, Larry Melnick dressing for the Oilers in this game helps Gretzky get to, you guessed it, Carey. It's 3-2, but again, around 2.5 minutes later, Brian Bellows gets an equalizer. It's 3-3 after 2. And then a scare in the third period. Grant Fuhr is hurt, but unlike many teams who'd be in danger, past and present, if they were dealt in this situation, the Oilers thankfully have another star goaltender waiting on the bench, and Andy Moog comes in. And on a power play, Greg to Messi to Gretzky. It's 4-3 Oilers, and Moog would hold them in the rest of the way. The Oilers take it and take a 2-0 series lead. The Oilers did not let their guard down, despite a determined North Star squad much more in Game 1. A big night for Kenny the Rat, as well as Randy Gregg also playing very well once again, and of course, so was Gretzky. Either way, the Oilers are in the driver's seat, and this series shifts to the land of 1,000 lakes. Game 3, however, fans of the Met Center have faith in their boys, and Andy Moog gets the start for the Oilers, and both Moog and Beaupre are playing great in net. Around the midway point, however, Dave Lumley gets his first playoff goal, and just under 2 minutes later, Mark to Glenn to Wayne on the power play. 2-0 Edmonton, and they carry that lead into the first intermission. But then things go south fast. The Oilers take a plethora of dumb penalties and are not playing a very disciplined game in the second period, and it cost them dearly as the Stars are the best power play in the NHL. Maxwell scores, Navier scores 2, and Broughton gets 1. 4 straight power play goals. It's 4-2 suddenly. 32 seconds after that, however, Broughton gets his second of the game, this one in even strength, but Paul Coffey closes the gap to a 2-goal deficit, but the Oilers trail 5-3 after 2. But the Oilers come out flying in the third period, much more focused and determined. Ooh, a power play. Ooh, Gretzky. Aha, Coffey. And yeah, Curry. The Oilers trail by a goal. 1:08 later, Fogelin is in control. Messier takes it and sets up Anderson. It's tied 5-5. Then it's Lumley and Huzar who get it to Kenny the Rat. And yes, indeed, he continues to have a great series, and the Oilers have come back at 6-5. Then the Oilers penalty kill strikes. Kevin Lowe uses those penalty kill skills to get it to Messier, who's just been a whiz in these playoffs, and he gets a shorthanded goal, 7-5 Oilers. And then Gordy Roberts hauls Gretzky down on a breakaway penalty shot. Look at Wayne. Here's Wayne. Score, Wayne. He indeed does. Haha. The Oilers have saved themselves from themselves and won 8-5, coming back from a 5-2 deficit. What a monster game overall from Messier. Truly showing how this victory mattered oh so much. 4 points, a goal and 3 assists. Gretzky plays another beauty with 2 notches and a helper. And what a big night for Dave Lumley, while Anderson, Coffey, and Curry bring their A game. And now the Oilers are just 1 win away, not just from a sweep, but making it back to the Stanley Cup Finals for the second straight year. Here we go. Game 4. The Stars fans are trying to rally their club into doing the impossible and improbable, and also trying to motivate Dino Ciccarelli, who has not played well in this series, as the Oilers seem to have his numbers despite his dirty tactics, as the likes of Curry and Messier are in his face. Grant Fuhr is back in action and ready to get his team back to the promised land. Veteran Joe Milosh gets the call for the Stars in this one, and he's on his game as the Oilers can't seem to solve him as he stymies this bunch. And Fuhr also holds his own, however, on the other end, as a solid back-checking strategy as well for the Oilers are keeping the Stars off the score sheet. It's scoreless after 1. But if the big guns can't get it going, well, that's the beauty of the Oilers, as the role players will get it started. Hughes to Hunter to Don Jackson. A very unlikely score gets his first goal of these playoffs, and the Oilers lead 1-0 while the goaltenders continue to shine, but it remains 1-0 after 2. And in the third, both teams are out there combating for control of that puck, and the Oilers, however, find themselves on a power play. Lowe controls the advantage. Curry takes over, and his Kenny Linsman gets the marker. 2-0 Oilers. However, Ciccarelli finally broke his slump and gets the Stars on the board. And as the edge of your seat action continues, Fuhr making big stops, close calls as the Stars fans are eager for a comeback, while fans watching in Edmonton have their hands clasped or are biting their nails, or both, as they want to finish this out tonight. Time is ticking down. The Oilers are still leading 2-1. Fuhr is keeping them in it. Stars rushes are being broken up as well, and finally Milosh skates off as the Stars add an extra attacker, but then Messier to Gretzky to Curry! Empty net goal with 49 seconds to play, and here we go. It ticks down further. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. The Edmonton Oilers, for the second straight year, are the Campbell Conference champions and get another shot at the Stanley Cup. A great effort from everyone all around in a very highly competitive outing, but again, the Stars made them work for it. Curry is making his case for the Conn Smythe Trophy as playoff MVP, as Linsman was tremendous all series long, and the role players are doing their thing as Fuhr was superb and outstanding in net. The Oilers step up in maturity, takes another leap, but can they complete it? Well, Wayne got the job done once again. 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points in just 4 games, and was more determined than ever and had that little bit of extra hustle needed. Jari Kurri is still a machine and was great all ends of the ice on that checking, fearlessly getting near guys like Ciccarelli and helping contain his onslaught that he is known for. But he also finished second with 8 points and led a team with 5 goals in this series. Oh, and Mark Messier, the fearless one. He's ready for whatever and whoever dared to cross him. He had a goal and 6 helpers for 7 points, coming in third for the team in this series, but more importantly, he played as if nobody was going to stand in his way of getting back to the Stanley Cup final. Ken Linsman came up with those big goals as he often does, while Anderson was relatively quiet in the series but still played very well. Hughes, Hunter, and Lumley were working together to contain the Stars' superstars and also coming up big on the score sheet when they were needed to do so, while McClellan and Pusar contributed a great deal once again. As for the Oilers' defense, despite being without Charlie Huddy, worked together to get the job done. And Paul Coffey led all defensemen, scoring with 5 points. And he and Randy Gregg, however, tied the team lead with a +7, as Gregg was probably the best all-around defenseman in this series, as he really took his game to a whole new level in Huddy's absence. Kevin Lowe was still staying hot in the series, while Lee Fogelin played with a lot of grit and hard work, as did Don Jackson, while Larry Melnick was activated again and played tremendously. Either way, the Oilers' defense came together in the face of injuries to keep this club going. And despite his injury scare, Grant Fuhrer was tremendous all through the series and had an outstanding 1.84 goals against average and was great in Games 1 and Game 4 and looked pretty good in Game 2 as well before his injury and attained an amazing .934 save percentage. Moog filled in pretty well for Fuhrer despite not racking up the same numbers, as he kept the Stars at bay and relief during Game 2, and despite a bad second period in Game 3, most of the goals he let in were power play markers. But he got it together in the third period, and his goals against average was pushing for. His save percentage wasn't all that stellar, but be that as it may, once again, both men contributed a huge deal. So here it is, another chance at the dance. Despite some still not acknowledging it, there were some experts out there who saw this for what it was, a very different Oilers club. Sure, it was the same players, but it was a much different attitude. Their approach to these playoffs, as well as all through this season, was the approach of a club that seemed more fitted in the mold of what a championship team could be. But yet, they still have yet to win it. Glenn Sather also grew as a coach this year, and worked close with assistants like John Muckler, and concocted a system that helped differentiate this team from the previous Oilers clubs of the last couple years. Gretzky is Gretzky, but with that extra determination. Messi is a wild animal, yet tamed when he needs to be. Curry is everywhere on the ice. Coffey is playing a very smart game. Anderson is playing with heart. Linsman is providing that playoff edge he is known for. Fuhrer is intense yet focused as any playoff goaltender should be. And Moog is there when they need him. And good news, Charlie Huddy is back for the finals, which will no doubt benefit the likes of Kevin Lowe. The guys who don't make the headlines, but the Oilers fans love oh so dearly, like Hughes, Hunter, Gregg, Fogelin, Jackson, Lumley, Semenko, and McClelland, are ready as ever. And they're going to have to be, because awaiting them in the 1984 Stanley Cup Final, once again, the New York Islanders, the four-time defending Stanley Cup champions. The team was won an NHL record 19 straight playoff series. They look to become the only second team in NHL history to win 5 straight cups, a record set by the Montreal Canadiens way back from 1956 to 1960. And of course, the very team that embarrassed the Oilers the year before, sweeping them in 4 straight, outscoring them 17-6, holding Gretzky goalless, and the other big guns were completely disarmed. And this year, the Islanders had a better regular season than they did the year before, with 104 points, tied for second best in the league. Their path to these finals, however, wasn't easy, as they were nearly eliminated in the first round as they went the full 5 games in a best-of-5 series, including an epic Game 5 overtime with the New York Rangers. They were able to, however, bounce out the Washington Capitals in 5 games in the best-of-7 series in the Patrick Division Final, and then went down 2-0 in the Wales Conference Final against an upstart Montreal Canadiens team, but won the next 4 games, beating them in 6. I covered the Islanders' 4 straight cup win on this channel. The links are in the description. There were a lot out there who felt it was the Oilers' time, but there are still many who feel this Islanders team is all around better overall than last year's team even, and that's why they'll win cup number 5. They also feel the Oilers are still not a championship-strong team. The Isles were more of a veteran team, but their players were still in their prime and still quite young. Mike Bossy set an NHL record with his 7th straight 50-goal season, beating the record of 6 set by Guy Lafleur, and also finished with 118 points despite missing 13 games. Brian Trottier is the consummate all-around center, had over 100 points, missed 12 games, and it's one of the reasons why the Islanders had a favor, because they still produced despite these obstacles. Team captain and superstar defenseman Denny Potvin in his 11th season had one of the best years of his career, 85 points, a monster plus 55, and a second-team All-Star. Joining Bossy and Trottier up front was one of the best two-way men in the game, a man who could work the boards better than just about anyone, John Tonelli. Former All-Star veteran Clark Gillies was playing like his young self again and having a really good playoff year. Bob Bourne, a hard-working, towering presence, can work all ends of the ice. The brothers Sutter, Brent and Dwayne, were key in containing the Oilers superstars last year and will no doubt be called upon to do so once again. They also had talented dirty goal scorer in Greg Gilbert. And to top this team off, veteran role players Bob Nystrom and Butch Goring, both of whom hitting the twilight of their careers, but still key in this team's early success, especially. The latter, however, won the Conn Smythe Trophy as playoff MVP in 1981. And to top it off, you had two youngsters, first-round picks Patrick Flatley and Pat LaFontaine. Joining Potvin on defense, Swedish sensations Thomas Jonsson and Stefan Persson, both of whom deserve more credit for their role. You had the more traditional stylings of Olympic gold medalist from the Miracle on Ice, Big Ken Morrow, who's a marvel each playoff year it seems, excelling in postseason play. And the punishing prowess of Dave Langevin. And in net, last year's Conn Smythe Trophy winner as playoff MVP, the grizzled vet, Battling Billy Smith. He's been backstopping them at every step of the way, and last year with his intense play and underhanded tactics and his insanely fantastic puck-stopping skills, he's still as great as ever this time of year. They are coached by the brilliant Al Arbor, who put together a system that is nearly flawless, and is the callous and the genius who put this great dynasty together, along with GM Bill Torrey. The Isles are ready to complete the drive for 5. The Oilers are once again knocking on their door and ready to take the reins of the NHL's big house, but the Isles still aren't ready to vacate the premises. Here we go. Game 1, Long Island, New York, Nassau Coliseum, May 10th, 1984. The Islanders have a record of 10-0 at home in the Stanley Cup Finals, so the odds are once again against the Oilers. And this was the era of the 2-3-2 series in games played, 2 games in New York, then 3 in Edmonton, and third of which if necessary as well, and games of 6 and 7 if necessary and in New York. Despite having the better record, the Oilers don't have home ice advantage because the Wales Conference have more points against the Campbell Conference head-to-head. Yeah, this era was somewhat confusing sometimes. So again, more odds it seems against our heroes, but they are ready. And both teams are fighting tooth and nail to take control of the game, and Billy Smith, however, and Grant Fuhr are putting on a goaltending clinic. And it wasn't as simple as doing what they do. They face difficult shots coming from all ends up and down their respective rosters. Nobody is able to solve them. And Gretzky once again is being hunted by Bourne and the Sutters, while Coffey and Curry get big chances but can't score. It's scoreless after 1. The second period is so much the same. As Fuhr says, "Not today, Trottier," while Smith says, "Maybe another day, Messier." Well, these two are putting on a show, and to the shock of many, it's still scoreless after 2 periods. In the third, however, we finally get a goal, and it wasn't a sniping shot from Bossy or Gretzky making a beautiful setup for Curry. It was a simple play where the Isles were trying to get the puck out of their zone, but solid Oilers checking kept it in. Hughes took the puck near the side of the boards and centered it perfectly for an incoming Kevin McClellan, who puts it past Billy Smith, who wasn't ready for it. It's 1-0 Oilers. The Oilers, however, still try and press Smith to build on their lead, but he's still turning back everything, while the Isles are putting so much pressure on Fuhr, but he is beyond what even a machine can do on this night. And in an unexpected result in terms of both the team who won it and the score, and the people who were in on the lone goal, I might add, the Oilers hang on to win 1-0. They take Game 1. Not only did the Oilers hand the Islanders their first Cup final loss at home, this is also the first time the Islanders have been shut out in a Cup final game. And on top of that, they've never trailed in a Stanley Cup final series until now. And Grant Fuhr put on the performance of his career. What a game from the 21-year-old goaltender who never saw a minute of Stanley Cup final action the year before, making his first appearance. Gouton McClellan's timely game-winning goal is still fondly remembered in Edmonton to this very day. Game 2. We're still on the island, and fans still proudly holding up signs reading the drive for 5 and still believe it'll happen. Both teams need their big guns, however, to come out firing. While the Isles certainly answer that call, as Grant Fuhr, despite turning everyone back the last game, has Trottier scoring him just 53 seconds into this game. This could be a bad omen at the Greg Gilbert goal, and in the power play, it's 2-0. However, the Oilers have life again as McClellan steps up and sends up Greg for a goal later in the first period, but Gillies makes it 3-1 Islanders after 1. The Islanders' tight checking is working, and Curry gets just one shot on goal the whole game. Trottier scored his second goal of the game, and Gillies gets his second. It's 5-1 Islanders. This looks like deja vu, as this is how it stays after 2 periods. The Oilers' big guns once again have been disarmed and dismantled, and the game gets tense as the Oilers resort to playing frustrated hockey in a game that saw over 100 combined penalty minutes, as the rivalry between these two clubs has hit a fever pitch, and Gillies gets the hat trick late in the third. The Islanders embarrass the Oilers 6-1, and the series is tied at 1 game apiece. And the Oilers are already being written off by several critics now once again. Gretzky, Curry, Coffey, Messier, Anderson, and Lindsman are all pointless in the first 2 games. And that despite their Game 1 win, they can't rely on fear like that the entire series against an Isles team like this. They will eventually get to him, and it did happen in this game with Gillies' hat trick and a huge game for Trottier, as well as Bossy. People say the Oilers will suffer the same fate. Despite the next 3 games going to Edmonton, the Islanders are just way too strong and way too deep. Game 3 in Edmonton at the Northlands Coliseum, but of course the group of people who believe in them the most still are their fans. And the media is all over the Oilers All-Stars for failing to break out so far. However, and it looks bleak yet again as Gillies scores and continues to roll just 1:32 into the game. However, the Oilers do tie it as Lidstrom and Henderson set up Keanu Lowe for his 3rd goal of these playoffs, and it's 1-1 after 1. But as Billy Smith, as usual, is great in net. The Oilers' top core is still being shut down despite Anderson breaking his slump. In the second period, Clark Gillies gets his 5th goal in 2 games and gives the Islanders a 2-1 lead. The Northlands atmosphere is just lifeless at this point, and it all seems the Oilers' top stars are pretty much just done and defeated at this point. The Isles at this moment are in control of the game and the series, and this bunch needs to step up now. This group of stars can't let a repeat of what happened last year occur again. Someone needs to inject life into this team. Well, the Islanders look like they are ready to break out on another rush. However, Lee Fogelin made a simple poke check that breaks it up, but then the puck ends up on the stick of Mark Messier, who skates in alone with 2 Islanders defenders to beat. He makes a beautiful move faking out rookie Gordon Dineen, and then Denny Potvin can only watch as Messier he dances it into the net. Northlands Coliseum wakes up. The Oilers have life. The game is tied 2-2, and the team is going to respond. They are putting an all-out attack on Billy Smith. They are not letting up, while Fuhr is keeping the game tied and trying to help give his team momentum, and it pays off as Gretzky begins things nicely as Huddy puts it right where Anderson needs it. The Oilers have a 3-2 lead. 17 seconds later, a couple more players break their slump as Lindsman Hughes make sure that Paul Coffey gets his 1st goal of these finals, and just like that, it's 4-2 after 2. Messier's goal was the injection of motivation this team needed, and Huddy and McClellan helped Messier get his 2nd of the game, his 7th of these playoffs, 5-2 Oilers, and then Lumley helps send it into McClellan, and what a series he is having. He scores a goal, ending Billy Smith's night, as the rare side of him being pulled from a playoff game has Oilers fans just loving what they see. It doesn't get much better for all-star goaltender Rolema Lawson, however, as world's greatest tag team strikes gold. Gretzky to Curry to Samenko, his 5th of the playoffs. 7-2 Oilers. However, we get a scare as Pat LaFontaine and Grant Fuhr get into an ugly collision, and Fuhr has to be held off the ice. And after a great game, his night is done. But Andy Moe comes in just to finish things up. But there was no miracle to be had on this night for the Islanders. A game that was in doubt in the second period changed on the turn of a dime with Messier's goal, and the Oilers take it a huge 7-2, with an emphatic message to everyone out there. This team is for real. They came to play, and more importantly, they came to win. Never have the Islanders been defeated like this during these last 5 seasons in the Stanley Cup final. Messier played a monster game, and while it's great statistically with 2 goals, obviously, it was more about him coming up at a time where his team needed him the most. He delivered huge in that regard. Gretzky played very well with 2 big helpers, while Anderson was the best he'd looked in the last little while. Coffey and Curry also broke their slumps, as did Lindsman. McClellan has been great in this series as well. Fuhr still gets credit for the win and played wonderfully, but his playoff run is sadly over. He'll be out the rest of the series. But it's a good thing the Oilers have another star goaltender in Andy Moe to take the reins. And with this, the Oilers lead the Stanley Cup Finals 2-1. Game 4, Northlands Coliseum is more excited than ever after the prior game's performance, and Andy Moog will have to be the one to backstop them the rest of the way. Despite the last game, Billy Smith still gets the call for the Islanders. However, Wayne Gretzky also has a monkey to shake off his back. He has yet to score on Billy Smith in 7 Stanley Cup final games dating back to last year. He still seems to have his number, as do the Isles checking core. Well, 1:53 into the game, the Oilers break out led by Curry as Semenko, who has been a significant factor in these playoffs, sets up the man he protects as Gretzky finally gets a goal on Smith. The Oilers draw first, and nearly a minute and a half later, Anderson sets up a wonderful Willie Lindstrom and gives them a 2-0 lead. The Oilers back-checking and defense is on their game. They're frustrating the Isles, and when they do get to Andy Moog, he turns them away significantly. But the Isles do finally get on the board, however, with a Brent Sutter goal. But look who takes away their momentum. Why, it's Mark Messier, scoring a big solo effort, and it's 3-1 Oilers after 1. Then on the power play in the second period, Messier is again taking control. However, Coffey then takes over, and Lindstrom again doing what he did all season. That's coming up with a huge game when you least expect it. And he has 2 goals in this evening. The Oilers have a 4-1 lead. And 1:37 later, AHL forward Pat Conacher, who did play in 45 games in this season, got to live a dream, replacing the injured Dave Hunter. Playing in just his second career playoff game, scores a goal in the Stanley Cup final, gives the Oilers a 4-goal lead. And it just gets even sweeter as it's Semenko to Curry to Coffey. He gets a goal, 6-1 Oilers. Flatley does get one back for the Islanders, and it's 6-2 after 2. The Oilers play a smart defensive game to protect their lead, while Moog makes some amazing key saves. But Wayne Gretzky steals the puck and sends another message to Billy, the man who stymied him last year and hacked away at him. Scores a beautiful goal to give the Oilers another 7-2 lead and 7-2 win, another rout. And the Oilers are in the driver's seat, just 1 win away from at last reaching the top. And credit, however, does have to go to Oilers checkers and defense for containing Mike Bossy, who has yet to score a goal in these finals. Gretzky finally solves Billy Smith and gets 2 big goals. Messier, Coffey, Curry, and Semenko all played very well. Moog was excellent in net, making some very difficult saves. The dream is one step away from coming true. Could it finally happen? Here we go. Game 5. This could very well be it, and fans in Edmonton at the oil rig known as Northlands Coliseum are ready for the changing of the guard. Moog looks focused as he makes the start, as Grant Fuhr, despite not suiting up, is eager to get that championship ring as he watches on. And it's competitive early on, as here we go again, as we've seen many times this season. Curry to Gretzky, a goal just over 12 minutes in to send the place into a frenzy. And wait, again? Curry to Gretzky, double trouble! 2-0 Oilers, they carry that lead into the first intermission. And again, Billy Smith is done! The first time he's been pulled twice from a playoff series. Oh man. Melanson is now in goal for the Isles, however, and on the power play to open the second, just 38 seconds in. Let's see. Oh hey, Gretzky! Yep! Chuck Huddy? To Kenny Linsman, his first goal of these finals, his 10th of these playoffs, 3-0. Power play again. This time it's Glenn to Paul to Yari. Oh, his first goal of these finals, 4-0 Oilers. The Oilers are playing tight against the Isles, breaking up many rushes, and when the Long Island boys do get a chance at Moog, he turns them away. Oh man, he is playing fantastic, and it remains 4-0 after 2. Wow, 20 more minutes. This is it. All they have to do is hold them off. The third period gets underway, and, okay, well, LaFontaine scores just 13 seconds in. No big deal. I mean, it'd be hard to shut out this team twice. The files like LaFontaine scores again just 25 seconds later. 2 goals in 38 seconds of the period? Not good. Are the curses of last year starting to linger again? Are the Oilers in trouble? Could this be the miracle comeback that many? Okay, settle down. All right. The Oilers realize they were caught sleeping, and Moog straightens himself out. And the team is working cohesively not to give the Isles a chance to get back in this game fully. And as the period moves along, it's still 4-2. The Islanders can't get anything going, and the oil rig is rocking, and they're getting more and more excited as the clock keeps ticking down. It's still 4-2. And before you know it, 1 minute to go. Oilers fans are lighting sparklers. Yes, that's a fact, sparklers, and are loud and proud. The time ticks down. Melanson skates to the bench as the Isles try for an extra attacker to desperately save their dynasty, but can't garner any big chances. Time ticks further down, and 13 seconds of play. Dave Lumley launches the puck down the ice into the empty net. 5-2 Oilers. Hey, the Isles dynasty, as great as it was, is over. And now for the final countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. The Edmonton Oilers, 1984 Stanley Cup champions, taking Game 5, 5-2. Gretzky and Curry show just why they are the best duo in hockey with 3 points each in this outing. Moog, despite his third period scare, shined in net. But the point is, they did it. They actually did it, and did it by dethroning one of the greatest dynasties in the history of pro sports, not just hockey, kicking off one of their own. The way this team worked together to make it happen truly showed they are no longer just relying on their talent alone. Gretzky was always called great, even this early in his career, but now above all, he is a winner, a champion. This young group of talent, not mature enough to be champions the year before, grew up this year and did it all by playing with focus and discipline. As even head coach general manager Glenn Sather, he grew up a lot and instilled that in this team. Nobody on this Oiler team had a championship ring yet. It was the first time for all of them. The boys became men on this night, to borrow an old cliche. They held Mike Bossy to no goals and just 3 assists, similar to what happened to Gretzky last year. Trottier was a -5. John Tonelli was pointless with a series worst -6. Gretzky may have been leading the way, but they did it all together. Wayne Gretzky and Jari Kurri were the 2 leaders in scoring, and this is the surprise to literally no one that a dynamic duo were the ones to shine in that regard. Despite both starting off the series pretty rough in the first 2 games, as all the big guns did, however. Gretzky performed very well in all the home games and had 2 goals each in games 4 and 5, and walks away with 7 points in this series. Kurri had a goal and 5 assists, coming in second for 6 points, but his close checking abilities were again an asset, as he one of the many that get in the way of the top Islanders forwards such as Bossy. Now, usually, of course, I put the top 3 scores in these graphics, but it's because there was a 4-way tie for 3rd place, as Coffey, Messier, McClellan, and Anderson each tied with 4 points. Messier's pivotal performance and momentum-changing goal in Game 3 changed the complexion of this entire final and led the Oilers on their way to a win, and followed up with another huge game in Game 4. Glenn Anderson was often criticized for his lack of statistical prowess in some parts of these playoffs, but he was still playing every game with hustle and heart. Kevin McClellan proved once again just why he was an important asset in a steal of a trade for the Oilers later in the season. He gave the team extra grit and came up with clutch performances, including his game-winning goal in the opening game, and had a fantastic series overall. Ken Linsman frustrated the Isles while Pat Hughes continued to shine. Lindstrom again popped up out of nowhere with another big game performance in Game 4. Dave Semenko was excellent in the series, while Dave Lumley also provided some toughness. It was a 3-way tie for the lead in plus-minus, with a +5 share between Hughes, McClellan, and Huddy. Hughes and McClellan, again, proving their impactful presence can make a difference while not getting the credit they deserve, were both folk heroes in Edmonton. Paul Coffey, of course, led all defensemen in scoring with 4 points and played very well in the 3 home games. However, Huddy's return was definitely well timed after missing several games, including the entire conference finals. And if he was playing hurt, it didn't show, so he was out there unafraid and fearless. Speaking of fearless, that was Kevin Lowe and Randy Gregg throughout this series. And the way they were out there just trying to make every shift they had count is, again, another reason why the Oilers were last successful. Don Jackson also played at his best in these finals as well. And, of course, the veteran, who's not even 30 years old, I might add, Lee Fogelin, provided more of that excellent guidance and leadership for this young core and played very well to boot. And, of course, he made that key poke check that allowed Messier to score that big goal in Game 3. Both goaltenders were at their best, as Fuhrer's performance in Game 1 was among the best of his entire career when it was said and done, and came up huge for this club. Despite a rough Game 2, he was playing great in Game 3 before his collision with LaFontaine ended his playoff, and he ended up with a really good 2.79 goals against average and a .905 save percentage. Thankfully, however, you had Andy Moog on standby, and there's no need to panic, as Moog was excellent in Games 4 and 5, making some big saves, allowing his team's offensive system to take over, and dominate the last couple of games, winning both with an excellent 1.89 goals against average and a fantastic .915 save percentage. The parade that went through the streets of Edmonton was truly a sight to behold. For a bunch of young men on top of the world, this was the stuff dreams were made of. The pride of a town, the belief their fans never lost in them, ever present, and their faith pays off, and they get to celebrate with them. As dominant as this team was, as dominant as some of their playoff performances were, nobody on this team will tell you that it came easy. They worked hard to get a win, close or not, overcoming a scare against the Flames and uncertainty until the third game of the finals. They won it all. Speaking of final, let's look at the final numbers. Wayne Gretzky's monster 35 points, 13 goals and 22 assists led the way as he was still putting up those insane numbers he is known for. Only this time it benefited his team the most. He had an incredible performance in these playoffs and proved a lot of naysayers wrong, going beyond his numbers. Yari Curry had 14 of each, goals and assists for 28 points, also leading the team in goals, and again his play at all ends of the rink was a big difference maker. As he, like many others, had a rough start in these finals, but brought it together at the right time. Mark Messier's 8 goals and 18 assists for 26 points was third best on team, and his performance in Game 3 is still talked about to this very day when it comes to historical moments in NHL history. And many times in the playoffs, he was the guy to wake the team up. Glenn Anderson played very well despite some critics on his case, while Ken Linseman's 10 goals certainly helped in terms of clutch situations, and he helped it a great deal as his overall headache-causing play against the opposition benefited the team hugely. Dave Hunter, despite missing most of the finals, came up big in some games, but Pat Hughes was really a go-getter when it came to adding some grit. Kevin McClellan's play proved to be crucial with his overall performance, especially with his game-winning goal in Game 1 of the Cup Final, the only goal of the game, another big Oilers moment. Willie Lindstrom, like he did all year, had the odd big game here and there, and his performance was pivotal in said games. Dave Semenko, while very popular in Edmonton, also made a lot of key plays to help the Oilers on the path to success, as Yaroslav Hozar also lent a big hand, as did Dave Lumley. It was a huge three-way tie for the team with a plus 18. Gretzky was tied with superstar defenseman Paul Coffey as well as defenseman Charlie Huddy, showing just how much they mean to the team. Now, Coffey was excellent in these playoffs, to the surprise of literally nobody at this point. Laney led all defensemen at 8 goals and 14 assists for 22 points. Huddy was also at his best. Plus 18, however, was made all the more impressive by the fact that he missed 7 games, including the entire conference finals series, but was right back on his game once the finals began. Coffey may have been the star, and deservedly so, but what Huddy meant to this team deserves to be said a lot more. Kevin Lowe was also playing in top form, playing with some of the best hockey of his career. Randy Gregg was also a superb presence out there, game in and game out, while the young veteran Lee Fogelin also upped his game to a big level, and Don Jackson proved to be how good he was in these playoffs. It may not have been the most traditional defensive core, but it was still a very effective one, and that's what matters in the end. Well, it's no surprise either that Gretzky, Curry, Messier, and Coffey, in addition to being tops in their team, were tops in the playoffs. Of course, meaning Coffey led all defensemen. Gretzky only finished 3 points shy of 38, which is a record held by himself a year prior. Also in the top 10 was Glenn Anderson, tied for 7th with 17 points, and there were 6 players tied for 14 points, and one of them was Ken Linseman. And look at this historical stat. The top 10 in plus-minus is almost a clean sweep, and indeed, however, is the case in the top 9. Gretzky, Coffey, and Huddy's team-leading plus 18 led the entire playoffs. Greg followed with a plus 15. McClellan, who, don't forget, was sometimes put on defense as well, was a plus 14. Lucky plus 13 for Hughes, plus 12 for Lowe, plus 11 for Semenko, and plus 10 for Fogelin. 5 others were tied at 10th with a plus 9. That's why I say almost a clean sweep, as 4 of them were Oilers: Curry, Messier, Hunter, and Jackson, while Paul Reinhart of Calgary was also tied with them. This is incredible, though, and again emphasizes their dominance. The goalies were at their best in these playoffs. Grant Fuhr, despite never having anything resembling playoff success and also being in net during one of the biggest playoff upsets in NHL history, showed he's a playoff goalie at long last, making those exciting saves, playing with that trademark controlled intensity. And his goals against average of nearly 3 is excellent. He was dominant in the opening round, got Edmonton through the tough series with Calgary, and played very well in the conference final. And of course, his ever performance in Game 1 of the Cup Final, getting his first playoff shutout, played excellently in Game 3 before injury took him out for the rest of the series. But he also garnered a 911 save percentage, which was 3rd best behind Mike Leatt of the Blues and Glenn Hanlon of the Rangers. His 11 wins were 2nd to Billy Smith's 12 for the New York Islanders. Andy Moe, however, certainly earned his ring, and that he was unable to obtain the year prior as the number 1 goalie of the playoffs. He put in relief for Fuhr for 2 games in the conference finals and played decent, but it was his clutch goaltending in games 4 and 5 of the Cup Final that showed his greatness. He had a great goals against average of 2.76 and a really good save percentage of 891, going 4-0. So So now here's the big question. Who is the Conn Smythe Trophy winner as playoff MVP? Obviously Gretzky has to be a front runner. You can also give it to Jari Kurri and Paul Coffey for what they were doing out there. Perhaps even Grant Fuhr could have been a winner had it not been for his injury in the finals. But the winner is... The Messiah! Mark Messier is the recipient of the Conn Smythe Trophy as playoff MVP, and this was amazing. I mean, okay, obviously he put up some great stats, but again, it was more in his role of coming up big in certain situations, stepping up when the team needed him the most. And of course, that was evident in Game 3 when it looked like the Isles were going to take control of the series fully. He scored that beautiful goal, and the Oilers never looked back. But that's what Mark Messier did all playoffs. He motivated his team when they needed motivation. It's what he did all year, as a matter of fact, and it showed leadership by example in key moments. And when people praise Messier as a great leader, some say Game 3 of these finals is where it truly began. A very well-deserved accomplishment for Mark Messier. And out of the Oilers on this team in the Hall of Fame, well, there's a lot. To be exact, 8, including 7 players. And their coach/general manager, Glenn Sather, was inducted as a builder in 1997 for all the success he had with the great Oilers dynasty. The 7 players, well, Gretzky was the first in 1999, the year he retired. As a matter of fact, after 20 NHL seasons, holding some of the NHL's most coveted records, both career and single season, as well as many playoff records. He's still the NHL's all-time leading point scorer. However, his all-time goal record is currently being chased by Alexander Ovechkin. Jari Kurri for the longest time held the most European scoring records and was an influence to many in his native Finland, including another Hall of Famer, Teemu Selanne. Kurri was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2001 as a first ballot. Grant Fuhr went on to win over 400 games and became one of the best clutch goaltenders of all time. He too was a first ballot Hall of Famer in 2003. Paul Coffey to this day is still second amongst all defensemen in point scoring, and is still regarded as one of the finest skaters, setup men, and playmakers of all time. And he too was inducted into the Hall of Fame his first year of eligibility in 2004. Speaking of 2004, that's when Mark Messier retired after 25 NHL seasons as one of the all-time leading scorers in NHL history, and regarded as the greatest leader of all time, as the Mark Messier Leadership Award is now presented year after year. He, of course, was no doubt a first ballot Hall of Famer in 2007. Glenn Anderson's induction took a little while, but he eventually got his recognition in 2008, 11 years after he last played pro hockey. However, Kevin Lowe had to wait 19 years after he was first eligible, and got his long overdue induction at long last in 2020. Now, if we combine the Stanley Cup rings they won in Edmonton plus elsewhere from just the 7 players here, you'd have, get this, 35 Stanley Cup rings, with Messier, Anderson, and Lowe each having 6. However, many argue there should be one more Oiler in the Hall. It should be Andy Moog. He had a superb career, was one of the fastest goalies in NHL history to reach the 300 win mark, and not only do Oiler fans agree that he should be inducted, and even many fans at Boston, where Moog had some great years, also argue for his induction, and even some fans in Dallas have lobbied for him as well. He had a record of 372 wins, just 209 losses, and 88 ties, a record that puts him 12th all-time in winning percentage. That's better than Tony Esposito, Ed Belfour, Bernie Parent, Glenn Hall, and Grant Fuhr, all Hall of Famers. And indeed, those 372 wins puts him at 19th all-time currently. So why isn't Andy Moog in the Hall of Fame? It is true that other than the 1984 win, Andy Moog didn't see much action in the playoffs for the Oilers going forward, as Fuhr was the #1 playoff guy, but Moog was still a big reason for Edmonton's dominance in the regular season, and after he left for Boston, from 1990 to 1992, he appeared in 3 straight conference finals for the Bruins, including a Stanley Cup appearance. He had some good years in Dallas, but sadly did struggle come playoff time. He finished his career in 1998 with the Montreal Canadiens. Some say his lack of personal accolades is another reason. He never did win a Vezina Trophy, was never a team All-Star. He did, however, play in 4 NHL All-Star games, back when that mattered. The Hall of Fame has always been weird when it comes to goaltenders, and I guess it took Rogie Vachon an eternity to get inducted. But let's hope they take another look at Andy, because he does deserve it. He played in an era where many players were recognized despite not having won any big individual honors, as Kevin Lowe never really won any big individual honors either, but he eventually got in. Well, that does it for our look at arguably the greatest team in NHL history, the 1983-84 Edmonton Oilers. But who do you think should be in the conversation for all-time great NHL single-season teams? You can certainly make an argument for a lot of other Oilers teams, as well as the Habs or the Red Wings. Many other great teams have made the annals of history. But tell us in the comments below who you think should be recognized. And in the meantime, like and share the video, and please subscribe to the channel. And until next time, I'll see ya!